Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a 1-point lead.
Time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova. Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Hello, everybody. I hope we're all having a fine Tuesday. I am. Wow. Oh, wow. Let me tell you something. I'm a diehard Yankees fan, and I still, at 30 years old, get so pissed off when they lose tough games. This Knicks game ended right before the Yankees game went the way it did late in the game. And I'm watching this Yankees game after the Knicks game, not giving a damn. I'm watching Devin Williams blow another game. I'm watching Luke Weaver throw meatballs. And I'm watching the Yankees lose a game they had a 3-0 lead in the 8th inning with a big-ass smile on my face, because all I could think about was this New York Knicks team and what they did in Boston last night. Folks, welcome to episode 860 of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to BD4. Told you so. No, I didn't. But wow. What was it? I think Boston was minus 500 something to take this game. The Knicks, they stole home court. By taking this one. Now, by no means am I changing my perspective on how I think this series will play out. I still think it's going to wind up being what, I think most people still expect it to. But I'm going to take a day. I'm going to take these next something hours until tomorrow night to be human scum to the city of Boston. Because as much as I love the Knicks, it's the same amount in my heart of hate for that city. I spend a lot of time on here trashing Philly fans, trashing Houston, trashing those folks over in Queens, and a couple of other cities that I dislike. It always comes back to Boston, and they will forever be the number one team on my list that I just despise, no matter what sport it is. I don't root for Boston. I never will. I root against Boston. I check the scores every night to see if the Celtics lose, to see if the Red Sox lose, to see if the Boston Bruins lose. I haven't watched hockey since I was a Devils fan and followed Niedermeyer. I hate Boston sports. I hate their fan base. I think they are white redneck trash. There goes my YouTube algorithm. I think they're Irish townies. They just something about the way they look. They're cocky and I just envision them all looking like these pale redheaded Bill Burr motherfuckers. Who Bill Burr is probably the only thing about Boston that I love. and their lobster. It was so nice to do that in that shitty arena. You know, Toronto Dominion Bank. That's what I'm calling it, because they don't deserve to be called the Garden. Also, where were their fans? I thought that place was going to be filled with green. Heard a lot of Knicks fans there last night. And certainly heard even more after the game ended. Took over that place. What a game. What a game, what a game, what a game. And so many things to talk about. You know, the first quarter, like, the Knicks held up. I didn't know what to think because they weren't, like, they got off to a good start and you saw some different things, but then it got shaky for a while where they started to beat themselves, right? They were, I mean, you had a Brunson, like, with a brainless behind the back pass to Hart that resulted in a turnover. That was kind of the first blunder of the game. Then Josh Hart makes a bad pass mid-jumper to Towns, who was unaware of the entry, ends up being a turnover. Ugly play. Brunson tries to make a pass in transition. OG can't handle it, leads to a turnover. OG then makes a bad pass mid-jumper to Mitch on the low post. That's a turnover. They were just sloppy. Campaign, a rough stretch there for him late in the first quarter. He commits a bad turnover. He misses 2 free throws at the line there. And then he commits a bad foul. And then at the very end of the period, Towns doesn't get that final shot off. He had a clean look. Couldn't get it up in time. Unaware. But then you look up and you're like, all right, the Knicks are not playing with the concentration that you want, but they were down just 26-25. But then the second quarter comes, and it was a horrendous nightmare that I'm going to try not to think about ever again. You know, you got Towns in foul trouble. You got the hack-a-Mitch stuff going on. So Thibs has to go to his precious Achua minutes, and the Knicks are down 16 at halftime. All right, it got ugly. Thought that was it. But the third quarter comes, and it gets worse before it gets better because Towns has one of the worst stretches known to man in a playoff game. I mean, this was like brutal. I got secondhand embarrassment. Just making poor reads on the post with help and pre-rotations coming, just taking too long to get rid of the ball. And some of that is the Thibs and Hart marriage that results in some of those pre-rotations. But all second half, really, he was making some bad reads, committing bad turnovers, taking low-quality shots, bad misses, and just he was a big reason the Knicks went down 20 points there in the middle of the period. But then Tom Thibodeau makes the good decision to pull Towns from the game, and the Knicks go on a pretty big run after that. OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, they start saving the day. Some good three-point shooting there. Mitchell Robinson was huge on the defensive glass. Boston was doing nothing but taking and missing three-point attempts in that third quarter. I think all but one of their 20 shots that they took in the third period were from beyond the arc. Mitch Robinson played a huge factor there. And the Knicks were down just 9 points entering the fourth quarter, so they were still in the game. Fourth quarter comes, and the Knicks, defensively, they just stifle the Celtics. Stifle them. Tatum was horrendous in the period. He missed all 7 of his shots. And it was so stressful, and it aged me incredibly. I just turned 30. I feel like I just turned 50. At the moment, I felt myself aging. It was just a wild sequence of events in that final half of the fourth quarter alone. Like, you had Brunson going on an 11-2 run by himself. Clutch player of the year, by the way. He was huge. He leads the Knicks from behind, and he puts them in the lead. He was so hot, he puts the Knicks up 6 with 3.5 left. 97-91, the Knicks were up. But in classic trademark 2025 Knicks fashion, where they just have these self-created meltdowns, they start beating themselves again. You had a couple of bad fouls, which led to some free throws from Brown and Tatum. You had that Brunson turnover where he carried. That led to a Derek White 3 to put the Celtics up 1 point again. So now they're up with 2 minutes and change, 98-97. Brunson commits a bad turnover again right after that. OG then responds with the big three-pointer to put the Knicks back up 2. But then on the other end, Jalen Brunson's beat on the short roll off of a hedge, didn't recover. Celtics tie the game. You could tell Brunson was starting to get gassed. And then on the final possession of regulation for Boston, Mitchell Robinson with a great switch onto Jason Tatum, forces him to miss a 3. Deuce grabs the rebound. And on a final possession of regulation for the Knicks, Thibs draws up a really good ATO. Towns makes a great pass. Good find by him. Brunson gets a very good look at a floater. Misses it. A shot that he makes 99.99% of the time. Doesn't fall. Again, you could tell he was gassed. He missed all of his shots in overtime as well. The legs just weren't there by the end of the game. Overtime comes, and the Knicks step up, and it's Mikal Bridges. Gets a big save, jumping out of bounds to get the steal. That leads to an OG and one dunk in transition. Converts it. The Knicks are up 3. Brunson, a nice defensive possession where he switches onto Jason Tatum, holds up in the mid-range area, forces a miss. And then Bridges knocks down that big corner 3. Watching it back, that ball hit the corner of the backboard, and it banked in. It puts the Knicks up 6 with 2.5 left. Boston manages to cut it to 3, I believe. But the Knicks played it pretty well from there. You know, Mikal had a big steal off the inbound at the very end there to snatch it from Jaylen Brown's hands at the buzzer. And the Knicks win 108-105 in Beanville, or whatever the fuck they call that stupid city, last night. So, you know, all the talk this year about the Knicks' resilience and they're just not that same tough, gritty team, and they're playing a little soft. I got to say, for the way this postseason's gone, where they're not playing their best basketball, we are 7 games in. When you take a look at how they won that Detroit series, and when you take a look at the display that you saw last night in Boston, where they were down 75-55 with 5 minutes and change in the third quarter, and then they closed the game with a 53-30 run from that point on. They grinded. They battled through. They showed grit. So I think that's back. I think you're seeing it show up when it matters. I think these guys know the stakes. You know, and listen, I spent, and I still do spend, a lot of time criticizing Tom Thibodeau this year. You know, he's my favorite coach the Knicks have ever had, but I'm still going to be fair, and I'm going to criticize him when I think he deserves criticism. And I don't think he's had a great year coaching. But unlike a lot of other Knicks fans, I feel, my criticism is in different areas. It's not about the workload, which I feel like that's where a lot of the criticism comes from. It's from the heavy minutes. I never had an issue with that. People complain about him playing heavy minutes to the best conditioned athletes in the world. I just think I think we're in this era where load management is getting into everybody's head and kind of brainwashing people into thinking it's a good thing. I think, and I said this last year, I think the heavy minutes that he plays on his guys, I think it prepares them. I think it conditions them for these types of battles, these physical battles against the Pistons for 6 games where he had a wrestling match. You know, that a tough 52-minute grind last night in Boston, game 1 of the series. I think that prepares them for this stuff. The Knicks have 4 road wins in hostile environments in 7 playoff games so far this year. You know, Mikal Bridges looked stronger as the game was going along last night. Played 51 of the 53 minutes. OG Anunoby played 46 minutes. He didn't seem very tired at the end to me. Josh Hart, these are guys, especially Mikal and Hart, who are known for their durability. Ironmen. I don't think it's as big a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. I think if you're going to criticize this head coach, it should be in other areas. But we're not going to do that in this episode because I think the head coach, Tom Thibodeau, last night coached a hell of a ball game. And all the concerns, at least for a night, went away. You know, you want to talk about his ATOs, play calling. I thought that was on point. You know, I thought they got into their sets quicker. I thought they upped their half-court pace. You want to talk about pick and roll coverages. That's going to be a big theme we're going to get into in a second. Rotations and lineups. I thought that was good. You saw some things, and we'll get into the specifics on all of that. So, credit Tom Thibodeau. And credit the whole team. It was a collective effort. But, you know, Jalen Brunson, who led the comeback with the shot making in the fourth quarter. Boston, I thought they did a very nice job in this game, taking away his deep paint touches where he likes to drive deep into the paint to draw help. Still found a way to work to 29 points. Mikal Bridges with a big, gigantic second half with timely shot making and elite wing defense. I thought he played very poorly in the first half. I thought he played soft. He turned it on in that second half. So I think the first thing we need to start with here is just how well prepared the Knicks defense was for the Celtics in this game. Right. And this was a big conversation leading into this one. How are the Knicks going to defend this Boston Celtic team? Will they stick to a drop coverage? You know, which I think I was afraid of because they went to a lot of drop in the regular season, even against Boston. You don't want to go to a drop against a team that can knock down a ton of three-point looks and take a ton of three-point looks. So I was a little concerned about that. So what were they going to do? And I think everybody was on point that they should probably go and switch everything. There's no real secret formula to defend this team, but I think switching everything is what all of us wanted. And my God, did we get that from the very first second of this game. For a head coach that never switches his fives, he never switches his fives on. To stick with that throughout all the crap that we saw when it yielded some of the trade-offs that switching yields, I thought that deserves a lot of credit. You know, in Boston, they still got up three-point looks in quantity. They took 60 of them, but they missed 45 of their three-pointers, and that was in large part because of the Knicks switching everything. So they got three-pointers up in volume, but it was the quality of looks that were very poor. So, yes, obviously there are significant drawbacks and trade-offs to switching and hedging. It can be very taxing, and I think that's part of the reason Brunson was fatigued late. It leads to foul trouble and offensive rebounds, which you saw in that first half, right? This is why Thibs likes to keep Towns in drop most of the time, so we can have him on the boards and he can avoid foul trouble. But because Cat was switching, the Celtics put him into early foul trouble. He ends up with 5 personal fouls overall. And the Celtics ended up grabbing 19 offensive rebounds. They doubled the Knicks' offensive rebounds in the first half. They were on the offensive glass a lot early on because the Knicks were switching. A lot of second chance points early on. And then they started to do some things where they were countering switches throughout the game by using slip screens and short rolls and screening under and below, using Peyton Pritchard to screen his own man off. But for the most part, when it was all said and done, 53 minutes later, I think the Knicks switches completely threw the Boston Celtics off. I don't think they were expecting that because they saw mostly a different look against the Knicks in the regular season, right? Now, a little bit towards the end, yes. In the second to last game against the Celtics, you saw some Brunson switches onto those Tatum pick and rolls. And then the very last game of the regular season against the Celtics, you saw those Towns switches on those pick and rolls. But for the most part, I don't think the Celtics were expecting the Knicks to be switching 1 to 5 like they were. And it yielded, again, some very poor isolation looks on the 3-point line. A lot of movement threes. It took them away from their usual 3-point takes. It completely negated their pick and pop game. It kept the Knicks out of rotation and in front of their man, right? The whole point of a pick and roll is to gain the matchup advantage. But when the defense switches it, you're not fighting over the top. All you have to do is simply tag the assignment that's already in front of you. So because of that, Boston was unable to gain separation for clean 3-point looks. And I thought the Knicks, everybody's switches last night were holding up. I thought Wingstop was obviously great. Mikal, OG, and Hart. I thought even, just like from the Knick wings, they were bringing some excellent gap help to prevent paint touches off of drives. Right, great rotations on the backside in low man help, tagging the roll. Stunt and recovers, they looked good. They weren't committing to the help, but they were showing help, shadowing help. So when it was Towns or when it was Brunson who was on that switch mismatch, the Knicks were ready to show to help out those two guys. And when the Knicks did commit to the help, I still thought their rotations off the help were very sharp, very quick, and on time. But even like Towns held his own on switches. He held his own, as he usually can do. And Brunson, I thought he was fine on switches. Were there some bad moments? Sure. Tatum shot over him a few times. Again, I don't like some of the hedges with him. I would rather live with the switching. But Brunson's strength is real on the post. So when he gets that switch on a Porzingis, which I expect him to come back, I'll take that. Because it's not going to be a 3. And when Brunson and Towns were put into action, because the Knicks were switching it, Boston wasn't able to just walk into open 3-point looks. Because again, when you switch it, you're just tagging the guy right in front of you. You don't have to fight over the top. So, now, tomorrow I do expect the Celtics to make adjustments to those switches. I think they're going to spam Brunson and Towns into 2-man action even more. I think they're going to spam short rolls even more, and I think they're going to do other things. I think Porzingis will probably return. You have to think, now that they lost. But even if, again, I would stick with the plan. Keep switching everything to force those 2-point post-ups, right? And that's going to be a big question for the Celtics to answer. Do you do the same, do you stick to the same shot diet that you had last night and you rely on variance and just positive regression? Or do you go to your post-ups off the switch a little more to draw help for the kick-out, or even just take those 2-point post-ups on the mismatch? KP's got a small. Do you just live with that? I am curious to see how they adjust to those switches, especially if KP's out there. So I think, first and foremost, you got to credit to the head coach for going to that switch everything defense and really making it work. So for a team that doesn't have the personnel to really consistently switch 1 to 5, I thought it was a good showing last night for them. Now, I do want to talk about some other things. So we'll do that. We'll talk about some offensive stuff when we return here from break in episode 860 of BD4. Stay with us here on the podcast. Be back in a sec. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. Okay, welcome back to the show. The Knicks win 108-105 in Boston over the Celtics last night, game 1 of the Eastern Conference semis. I want to stay on Thibs a little here. Because listen, this series could go. I still think it's going to go that way. And I don't know if Thibs is going to continue to get, this praise. So I'm going to use it while I can and use it potentially while he's still here. I loved the offensive creativity last night. I think the Knicks were showing you different looks in their lineups. I think Thibs was going to different looks, like tinkering a little bit after the hack of Mitch and after Cat got into foul trouble. He was kind of forced to get creative, and he ends up doing a couple different things, right? He obviously dug into the well a little bit, and he went to Precious, and those Precious and Hart minutes were brutal, as we don't miss that. But he also won small, and you saw minutes with OG at the 5 in the second quarter. And I think that was very positive, just to see him go to that look. Now, there are definitely the trade-offs, when you're going small. You saw Brown dominate on the post. You saw Mikal Bridges lose out on a rebound, gets bumped a little bit of contact, ball knocks out of his hands. So eventually he did go back to Mitch. And I think that's why you kind of need to experiment more with these lineups in the regular season, is to have the reps and the consistency so you're not going into it totally blind in the playoffs. But I guess he didn't want to show his hand. But I like the fact that we did get OG at the 5 small ball lineups, and you also got 5-out spacing for a few minutes in the first quarter. You got the Brunson, McBride, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns lineup. And the Knicks got some good offense out of that. You got a pistol 5 set, right? You go Brunson to Towns on the post, back to Brunson for a drive off the screen. Brunson finds Deuce weak side corner. I would like to see that play in that formation where they're going 5-out more often. You saw some stuff for Towns early in this game. A few ball screens, Brunson Towns actions, an inverted screen. You had a cross screen for Towns early. You need to maintain that throughout the game to beat these switches. But you also had Towns kind of at fault for some of that because, again, he needs to start doing a better job when he's on the post there of making reads with that weak side help coming to the ball. When they start to double the post off of Josh Hart, Cat's got to be a lot quicker. And there was a couple of times, but there was one that really bothered me. It was in the fourth quarter where he missed OG Anunoby on the weak side corner, and he chose to hang on to the ball, and he ends up spinning into traffic, misses a layup. It's just the reads have to be better. So when they're pre-rotating off Josh Hart, you just have to make that pass quicker. A couple of double drags in the first half after I think the Knicks only ran a couple of double drags in that Pistons series, and we talked about that a little bit. But you saw one at the top of the second quarter. Holiday goes under. Porzingis steps up from drop. That opens up the roll for Josh Hart. Brunson goes to Hart. The Knicks get a goaltend basket. I thought they did a nice job, speaking of Hart, of countering those ghost coverages off him. And credit to Josh Hart, too, for taking those 3-point looks that he had when he was open intentionally and being aggressive on the ball. There was a possession where OG knocks down a 3 in the middle of the third quarter. It starts out, it's a Brunson-Mitch pick and roll on the right wing. Josh Hart's one pass away at the top of the key. Peyton Pritchard is in nail help off of Josh Hart to stop the Brunson drive when he comes off. Tatum's one pass over from Hart on Mikal Bridges, who's spacing. But because he was watching the gap that was given to Hart, it was a lot of room. Tatum kind of loses track of Mikal Bridges, who ends up screening Brown, who is on the corner guarding OG. And Brown was ball watching. I don't think he was aware of Bridges' screen. So he gets screened off. That opens up a look for OG. That's because of the way they were guarding off of Hart. That led to that. So I think OG and Brunson were doing a very good job getting 3-point looks up. That was nice to see. Increasing 3-point volume, 23 point attempts between the two of them. You add in McBride, 26 3-point attempts between three guys. So I think the Knicks still need to get Towns going. 1 3-point attempt in this game, 13 shots, 14 points. That's pathetic. You need to get those reps. So continue to go 5 out to get the big on Towns so you can get those 3-point looks in the 1-5 pick and pop. When you go to those double big formations, I would like to see Mitchell Robinson set those screens for Towns to get him those 3-point looks. So there are still some things they need to work on. But overall, I thought it was a decent job by Thibs increasing half-court pace, right? Until the Knicks went into their prevent offense in the end of the game, which was ugly. But, yeah, Brunson, OG, 3-point volume. OG Anunoby, while we're talking about him, we're going to hand him the game ball. I thought he was fantastic. 29 points, 10 of 20 shooting, 6 for 11 on his threes, 3 of 4 at the line, 1 steal, 3 assists, 46 minutes to play. The offense was amazing. Strong takes. He had a drive-in finish on Jaylen Brown in the third period. He had 3 slam dunks in this game and 1. He had a steal and slam. He had another transition dunk in there. Momentum-stopping baskets, like in the first quarter. You had the Celtics gaining separation up 17-11. Knocks down a big 3 on the corner. He knocked down another corner a couple of minutes later to take the lead. And then in the third period, the Knicks are down 20 points. He knocks down a wing 3 off of that Mikal pin down that we just discussed. And the clutch shot making in the fourth quarter and overtime, right? Fourth quarter, he knocks down a pull-up 3 over Luke Cornett. Nice to see him off the dribble there. Then he knocks down a corner 3 to put the Knicks up with a minute left. Overtime comes. Obviously, that's when you got that and 1 dunk. He converts the free throw. 3 assists in this game. One of them to Hart for a 3-pointer in the third quarter there. Helped propel that comeback. And the defense, of course, being what it always is. Stunting, helping, switching, covering the gaps, doing a nice job on the ball, point of attack, off the ball. Just great. He was worth every penny that he's getting paid last night. So it's his 17th time getting the game ball, and it's his first time this postseason getting a game ball. So OG Anunoby, well-deserved 29 points last night. Going to the second unit here, I think Deuce McBride deserves getting the game ball from the second unit. Thank God. Thank God Deuce showed up. Deuce had such a poor performance against the Pistons. The shot was not falling. Too much dribbling. A lot of on-ball reps for a guy who's not great playing point guard. And defensively, he was beat first step a lot by Schroeder. But he returned last night, and he showed up on both ends. 11 points, 4 for 8 shooting, 3 for 6 on his threes, 1 steal. He had a couple of first quarter 3-pointers to keep the Knicks within distance. Couple of early pick and rolls with Mitch. He converted one in the second quarter. Got to his left hand layup over Porzingis. Massive corner 3 early in the fourth quarter to cut the deficit from 9 to 6. He had some big moments. 26 game balls now on the season overall, and his first of the postseason. So with that said, I'm trying to think if we have anything else to add, but that's pretty much what I got from this one game. That was just, it was such a fun game. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to our final break, and then we're going to come back and wrap this up with our trivia question, and that'll be it. Stay with us here on BD4, episode 860. Be back in a sec. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to episode 860. The Knicks absolutely stun the Celtics in game one. Thibs with a masterpiece. So I don't think I want to yap much more. I did enough yapping. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to our trivia question of the day to wrap this one up. Let's get to it. All right. So, for this trivia question here at episode 860, how many overtime games have the Knicks and Celtics now played against each other in postseason history? All right. How many overtime games have the Knicks and Celtics now played against each other in postseason history? Let me know the answer. This obviously includes last night. So, let me know the answer. That's it, folks. Appreciate you all tuning in. The Knicks defeat the Celtics in game one in overtime at Toronto Dominion Bank. Woo! What a win. What a win. We'll see what happens the rest of the series. I have a feeling that, we'll see. That's why I'm enjoying it. So, good to win. Hate that city. Love my city of New York. Let's go Knicks. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.